This is Rohit of Gamersplain, and you're listening to Legends of Tabletop.
Hey everybody, this is John. We obviously have Rohit from Gamersplain with us tonight. Vince, unfortunately, will not be with us. He had a little bit of a family situation, so I'm flying solo tonight. So we'll dive right in. So how long have you been doing Gamersplain?
So Gamersplain, the current iteration of Gamersplain went live about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. But I think in one format or another, I've been working on the site that would eventually become Gamersplain for about, I'd say, a decade now.
Wow. And what was the original, what made you come to this conclusion? Like, hey, I want to do a site where people can come and just play a billion games, because there's a ton of games on there.
Yeah, well, it all started in college. So I had a group of friends who introduced me to tabletop games back in high school. We played a lot, but as it happens, and when we got to college, the group kind of, we all went to different universities. We were all distant. So while we met up in the summers and winters, I wanted to get some gaming in between. And I had a horrific, super stereotypical experience that completely turned me away from my university's gaming group. Kind of scarred me from trying random groups of people for tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
I had signed up for a game, and I can't remember what it was, but I want to say Legends of Five Ring. That sounds right to me, but that might just be because I've heard that name a lot over the last few weeks.
Sure.
And I went into the community, to the campus center, to meet with the GM. We were going to do character generation and maybe like an intro quest. And there's a guy in front of me who he's your stereotypical gamer. He's well on the overweight side. He's got a ton of body odor, and he's sitting in front of me with a bucket of dice. As in, we could be rolling each of us could be rolling a die every couple of seconds, and throughout the evening, maybe we'd reach the end of the bucket. And I mentioned to him that I didn't have dice on me. And that was, at that time, basically when we played with friends, one guy had like 150 die. We all just borrowed off of him. No big deal.
Right.
And when I mentioned this to him, he got this weird look in his face, and he seemed insulted that I didn't bring my own die. And he plucks a set of die out of this huge bucket. And it just went downhill from there. Like he was a very like rules strict. He was very like I said, the body odor really didn't help. And about half an hour in, I got up, went to the bathroom, and never came back.
Oh, jeez.
I just left.
Just bailed.
And that kind of pushed me to be like, all right, if I can't game in real life, this was when the internet was finally like getting into its own stride, where broadband was starting to become more accessible to people. So I'm like, all right, I'd played on play-by-post sites in the past, but they've always had something wrong with them. So as any good engineer does, I decided, why don't I just remake this and start something new?
Right.
And that's what it was. I started a website. I want to say it was called Tabletop Online. It sucked. It was terrible. No one signed up to it. And I had another 3 or 4 failings over the next 5, 6, 7 years before I finally made a last effort. I'm like, I'm going to try this one more time. If it works, great. If it doesn't, all right, I'm done with this. This is a project that's just gonna hit the mothballs. Right. And this time around, it picked up. People seem to be pretty happy with it.
Well, there's a lot more accessibility now with all the social medias, Twitter, and all these different things to really kind of get people's attentions. Have things like Roll20 and Google Hangouts, which we're using now. So there's a lot more ways to capture that audience than maybe you had the first time around.
Absolutely. And I also, so again, as an engineer, the first few times I wanted to make a perfect website. And so things just never went right. And so I kept pushing off stuff. I didn't promote enough. This time I just went, here are my features. mostly works. It's not terrible. I'm just going to put it online and see what people think.
Right.
And that was best decision I've ever made. Best decision.
Well, you get people in, and you let them play with it a little bit, and you get some feedback, and then you get in and start to make your tweaks and be like, oh, we don't have a deck of cards, or we need a whatever the fiddly bits are.
Right. Yeah, and of course, being the only user on the site for a long time, I built the site I wanted, but that wasn't necessarily the site other people wanted. So getting people on, trying it out, and whatnot also helped me build a site that was, it had the vision that I wanted out of a play-by-post site, but it had what people wanted out of a play-by-post site. So I think 8 years of failure definitely led up to building a reasonably decent site. Even from the get-go, my hardest part was just getting GMs on the site, because you need GMs to get players, but you need players to get GMs. And so it was a nice cyclic loop where I couldn't really get things kicked off initially.
Yeah, it's definitely catch-22.
Yeah, exactly. But I got lucky. A couple people signed up wanting to GM. They did. Players were much easier to capture once I had active games. And the rest is, I hesitate to say history because it's really not, but the rest is what has happened up till now.
And you can't really consider them failures. I mean, you push through, you learn from your past mistakes, and it's a failure if you do it and you give up and say, oh, that was terrible, and I shouldn't have done it. But to persevere and get through it and turn it around to get it to something that is really what you wanted all along is anything but.
Well, that's fair. I look at it as failures in that specific project didn't succeed. But I'm with you on that. Like, you fail, you pick yourself back up, you learn from what you screwed up on, and you try again. And you really can't ask for more than that. Like you said, although, I mean, like I said, this time with Gamers Plane, if it didn't succeed, I would have given up on it. But I think 10 years of trying to put the site together would have eventually taught me maybe there's just no market for what I'm trying to do here.
Right.
So, but it worked out this time, so we're good. We're good.
Well,
the site's
good.
live and kicking, and it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah, I can imagine. I would imagine, much like our podcast as well, it's like a full second job for you.
Yes. I'm fortunate in that I'm a web developer by profession as well, and so when I have downtime in the office, maybe I'll sneak in half an hour of coding there. On the train to and from work, half an hour of coding there. Usually 2 hours when I get home from work. And, on the weekends, whenever I have time.
Right.
So, yeah. There's not enough time in the week to do this.
That's for sure. I'm lucky where I can sneak some time away at work as well, and do some tweeting and get some posts up on the website. It's nice when you're able to do that.
Yeah, that's being a website makes it really easy, and being it's a play-by-post site, there's kind of that built-in nature that random updates are going to happen at random times of the day. Even in terms of games people are playing, it's once a day or once every other day. The idea is log on whenever you have time and you can post. And I think people kind of have built that expectation that the site also operates in that same way.
Sure. Yeah, when I used to be on a podcast called Nerdbound, and when I joined their forums, that was the thing. Like right in the very beginning, it's like, okay, how often do we need to post? Like, let's set some sort of guidelines, and get people in different time zones, different parts of the world, and you get into a social interaction. You feel like you're leaving some people out, and it can get a little tricky, especially when you're playing with people you don't know. What the level of expectation is when you get into it.
Yeah, I've tried to take a lot of that out of Gamers Plane by making it very upfront, in that GMs can they can put down on their games, I'm expecting that you're going to post, once a day or twice a week or however often.
Right.
My idea was simplicity. Put all the details up front, let people pick things, choose what they want to do, and then all they really need to worry about is posting in their games and having a good time.
Right. How many games are there currently running right now? Do you know?
I want to say there's probably about 200, 250 games that are created. A decent number of them are test games where people will sign up, they'll just make something for the heck of it to see how the system works, and then they'll end up creating a new game a little bit later that'll actually be the game they want to run. So I'd probably estimate 120 to 150 games have been created with the intent of playing. How many of them have continued or gone active? Not sure, but I can easily say somewhere between 30 to 50 are currently live and active.
Nice. That's a really good number.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that, and it's growing at a nice pace, which is okay. Actually, that's probably not true. It's growing in jumps and bounds. It'll go dead for weeks, and then all of a sudden, 20 people sign up in a week, and then it goes dead again, and then it keeps going. So it's been an interesting balance of trying to learn how to get more people to sign up on a more consistent basis.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you get a lot of people that will play in multiple games, or do people come in and, like, oh, I only want to play 13th Age, and they come in, they sign up for one game, and that's it?
I find there's a pretty good variety. The most active people on my site are in 10 plus games. I don't know how they manage. It's a shock and a wonderment to me. But I know a guy who's currently in 14 games.
Wow.
We keep joking about having an intervention because there might be a problem there. But if he's having fun, hey, who am I to tell him no?
Yeah.
But I do find a lot of people join up because they miss RPGs. They don't get to do it as much in their day-to-day lives anymore, if at all. And other people who, there's a decent number who are now joining who've never gotten to play RPGs, and they want to try something out. And Play by Post allows them a place where they're not rushed, they're not pressured. They can just take their time, think about what they want to do, and move forward at their own pace. So it works out pretty well for those people as well.
Yeah, certainly for a new player, it's nice because if you do get into a social interaction, depending on how what their level of comfort is, you can take all day to come up with the snappy response or the the good retort in character. Where if you're sitting at the table, maybe you're a little bit shy to say something, or you're not as quick on your feet, and you lose a moment. You feel like you lose a moment.
Your other players are overwhelming, and they kind of take over the story, even though you might have an idea in place. I find that the mixed bag that the internet's anonymity is, it's a boon in this particular case, because people can kind of go, all right, well, I'm going to be this character, I'm going to be this name on the website, so who I am is kind of irrelevant. It's whoever I'm pretending to be at the time. And that's what role playing at the end of the day really is, pretending we are orcs and goblins and elves and whatever else. So
yeah. How do you find the community to be generally on the site? Have you had to ban anybody? Have you had any kind of behavioral?
Early in, I was very disappointed when I had to make my first ban, and I actually didn't even have a ban feature built into the site yet, and I rushed to build a ban feature so that I could ban this person. And it's not that they were doing any particular bad. It was just my one rule about people posting about their own personal projects or posting about other websites is you need to be active on Gamersplain. If you're active on Gamersplain, you can post about your podcast, about your website, about whatever else you want. Even competing play-by-post sites. I don't care, as long as you're active on the site. And one guy basically signed up. He created a game, created a subforum within a subforum within a subforum that linked out to a different play-by-post website. And at first I'm like, all right, is this guy trying? Like, is he just being unaware? No, you don't make a 3-level deep subforum unless your intention is to hide it. And so I banned him. I
remember that.
An hour of thought.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed. It hurt me inside.
Right.
Since then, I've had to take action against one other guy, but mostly because he didn't quite understand the etiquette. He apologized. We talked via email a bit. I unbanned him. Things were good.
Well,
Other
that's
than
good.
that, I am so proud of the community that Gamersplain has, because it is the nicest group of people that you will find on the internet, and that's what I was always hoping it would build to.
Hmm.
But I still am a little surprised that it actually worked out.
I think, and I've said before on the podcast, that as a general rule, I think our group, meaning gamers in general, is a pretty inclusive group, and generally speaking, good people, because they are the people who tend to be, at least stereotypically, the quirky people, the
Right.
don't quite fit in or whatever. So I think that kind of lends itself to a better community experience.
I would definitely say the social gamers, and I mean, when we say social, I don't even consider myself to be a social person, but I'm definitely a little more outgoing than a lot of, like you said, stereotypical gamers might be.
Mhm.
I think that particular crowd can be very nice, but we do also have the dark side within our own community that is very like, play my game and my game's the only right way to play, and only if you use these. We have all
Yeah.
those people too.
No, we do. We
But
do.
I think that when you go online to a forum, you're already stepping out of yourself, and so those people, like you said, tend to be the ones who are more accepting of the other people around them as it is. Uh,
Hmm.
Plus, being a small new site, people are taking a risk already. And I tend to find that people who are willing to take risks tend to be on the more accepting side of things anyway, because they know that, all right, I'm trying something new, someone else is trying something new. I know what that feeling's like.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's good. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice site. You've got tons of games on there. You've also got some tools on there. There's dice rollers. There's cards. You can draw cards. You have a music function here. Um,
Yeah, it's the tools are definitely, those were one of the first things that I built when I built the site in this version, because I realized one of the problems a lot of play-by-post sites have is you need to either use an external service or rely that people are rolling the die they say they're rolling, whatever else. It breaks the immersion from the game.
right.
And having card draw mechanics, having dice, even within the dice, I think at this point, what we have regular dice, we have Fate, Edge of the Empire, and I just recently added Feng Shui dice.
Hmm.
And I'm probably going to add Godlike soon too, as I just got to play that recently, and I finally understand what Godlike's roll mechanics are like. So the idea behind that whole system is you've got dice specific to what you want to do, so uh, you don't need to think as hard. You can just focus on the game.
Sure. Yeah, that's not one I've played before. I've heard of it, obviously, but I never got an opportunity to play.
There was a local con here last weekend, and I was fortunate enough to find a Godlike game I've been wanting to try a while. I love superhero RPGs, and it was really cool to try. It was a lot of fun. A D10 mechanic completely, which was neat. I'd never seen something like it before. So, from even a style point of view, it was a lot of fun to go for. So that's moved itself up my list of games to add to the site as well, because I think it's another game that would do very well in a play-by-post environment.
Sure. And how many different systems do you have on there? It looks like about 3 pages worth. I didn't count them up.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on 30-ish systems right now.
Wow.
And so we have 30 systems where we have built-in character sheets. And originally the site was going to be, if I put a system live, it'll always have a character sheet with it. The way the site is growing right now, I'm kind of debating going for I'll put systems up and build the character sheets as I get time to, so that people can start playing games and they'll get their character sheets, basically as soon as I'm able to put them live.
Sure.
So about 30 character sheets is the way I'd probably phrase it right now.
Interesting. And I think a lot of that stuff you could probably find online, the editable PDFs and things. People wanted to play something maybe
Sure.
didn't have a chance to get to.
Well, and that's the thing is you can always go for editable PDFs or generic character sheets, but the one thing that I don't think any other website does is the fact that I do digitally encode the character sheets onto Gamersplane. And the big advantage there is A, everything's in one location.
Sure.
B, one of the features we have is a character library. So you can actually create a character. If you think he's cool, you want to share him, you can add him to the library, and other people can then search the library for these shared characters.
Nice.
So you could, if you need an idea for an NPC or a PC or a big bad, something like that, hop into the library, see what people have created. It's a little rudimentary right now, but the site's growing. We're constantly adding new ways to search and things like that. And the digital character sheet also means that while I don't have it right now, I am building in the future, if you want to roll a skill, you won't need to, you'll just basically click the skill on your character sheet or from a drop-down list, something like that. It'll automatically add that roll to the post. So you don't need to, again, you don't need to use an external service. Everything is right there in one location. It feels as close to a tabletop experience as you can get while being on a forum.
Very cool. That's interesting. I've never seen that sort of functionality in a play-by-post site. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it was my big problem when I was looking for play-by-post sites back in in college, is that they all felt very generic. It never felt like I was playing an RPG. It just kind of felt like I was posting on a website that was D&D related. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring in as many features as I could to make this feel like a D&D game or a Shadowrun game or a 13th Age game. Every system should be unique, or every system is unique, and so every system should feel like you're playing that system. It shouldn't feel generic. It shouldn't feel like one of the others. It should be its own independent, unique thing.
Right. Well, that's cool. Do you have much of an opportunity to play in meat space, as it were, these days, or no?
So unfortunately, my real life group isn't as prolific as I would hope. We play every couple of months. We'll get a game in. But right now, it's also a case of timing. Usually I only have a couple hours after work. My weekends are here and there. So I'm among that crowd that digital gaming is good because it doesn't require the time commitment that real life gaming does. I would love to get a real life game group going consistently, but in lieu of that, thanks to the internet these days, there are other options.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any gaming online that would be like Google Hangouts, Roll20, or anything like that?
Right now, I don't, and I think that largely comes down to availability. A lot of my time goes into Gamersplane. I do freelance web development on the side as well, and work hours. So typically weekdays aren't an option, and on weekends, I try to get stuff done. But as I mentioned before, I'm not the most social person, for better or for worse, and so Google Hangouts and things like that, I am hoping to actually build in some tools on Gamersplane to help people connect in that way. Because I find that my biggest thing is online, it's just a shotgun. It's basically a shotgun blast. There are a million different things. You pick and you hope that one of them is the right one, and if it's not, you try again. And yes, there are communities out there, but the communities tend to be pretty focused, and I find can be hard to get into. And that's one of the things about Gamersplane is it's not specific to one system. It's
Right.
Are you an RPG player? Do you enjoy tabletop games in general? And so if I can build up a community there of general RPG players, I think myself and other people have an easier time finding a game when we're not focused in one specific direction.
Right. Now, do you play? Are you in any of the play-by-posts on Gamersplane?
Currently, I am in 2 games, D&D 5th Edition and an Edge of the Empire, and I'm learning 5th Edition thanks to that game, finally. And I'm looking to start up a game, but I'm trying to figure out what system I want to run it under. That's the biggest debate right now.
Okay. I would think that it would be having the time to actually put a campaign together?
Time for campaign writing. Yeah, that's a tough one. Thankfully, I tend to be a seat of the pants kind of GM. I know where the story's starting, I know where the story's going to end, and I have ideas of what I'd like the middle to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just wing it from there.
There you go. That's easier to do with the play-by-post too, because you do have that time to sit and reflect. And
yeah, absolutely. And even face to face, I've become reasonably prolific at going. I tend to be a very theatric GM. I'm not a fan of killing players, and I'm not a fan of, or more specifically, I am a fan of wild and crazy things happening. So when a player goes, I shoot the barrel behind the bad guy, 5 out of 10, 1 out of 2 times that barrel's going to explode. Not because it has anything explosive in it, but because that's a neat effect to have. Yeah. I like to make things basically like a movie, and so winging things becomes a lot easier when the HP of the monster doesn't really matter, but just when he dies matters according to the story.
Sure.
So I tend to not worry too much about things like stats and whatever else. I have a rough estimate. I roll it out. If the roll isn't even exactly what I'm looking for, I don't really need to mention that to the players. I just kind of go with what's appropriate for the storyline.
Do you prefer a crunchier game or a more cinematic game like The Edge of the Empire or Feng Shui or something like that?
So I think I like role-playing. A game without role-play is just dry to me. At that point, I could be on a computer playing anything.
Sure.
But I do tend to find that the systems that are super light, while I enjoy them, I can't play them more than once or twice in a row without getting bored of them. The crunchier ones hold me for longer stretches. The lighter ones are more palate cleansing. They help free my brain, help me think in different ways. But they're not something I can get heavily attached to.
Sure. So like Cthulhu Dark is not a game that you're going to play more than once or twice.
I'm not a horror fan in general, so I'll probably play that once or twice, and then I'll take a break as it is.
Yeah.
But like my real life group, we were trying Fate for a while. I enjoyed it, but the mechanics were just too light for me to really, or I guess more specifically, we were doing Fate Accelerated.
Okay, yeah.
And the mechanics were just too light for me to really sink my teeth into. Edge of the Empire, on the other hand, I think that's the perfect balance of depth and roleplay. I think that's got a very, very nice in-between.
Yeah, we have a Star Wars Edge of the Empire and a 5. Ironically enough, both of the games you're in, we have on our boards, and it has been a little. It's kind of tough. We did a lot of play-by-posts, like I said, when I was with Nerdbound, and kind of getting into it again has been a little kind of hard to wrap my head around. And I just posted today. I'm like, I don't know what these characters are doing. Like, I can't figure out what's happening.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think 6 or 8 months ago, I added this feature where you could add an avatar to your character sheet, and when you're making a post, you could choose to post as the character. And if you did that, the character's avatar would be the primary. So it would, and on the site, all of the forums look like chat bubbles. They look like the person's actually talking. And so it added this kind of unique depth that if you post as a character, it's got the character's avatar, and it looks like they're talking. And so it added this new layer that made it a little bit easier to track. Because now you could see, like, oh, is this an out-of-character post? Is this a player post? Is this a in-character post? Whatever it might be. So it was just this really neat thing that I saw all of a sudden. Roleplay improved because people felt more connected to their character because they were posting as their characters.
Right. That's a really cool feature. I've never seen that before either.
Yeah, it's... so for better or for worse, I am very attached to the project, so that means I'm on the forums way more than I probably should be, and that means when someone goes, what would be cool, my first response is, oh, okay, fine, I'll add it to my to-do list, we'll get around to it. I don't think I've outright shot down any feature request that's been made so far. There are a few that have been like, all right, I'm going to put those off. They'll happen in the, long forgotten future, but they'll happen eventually. But that's the worst criticism I think I've given any feature request so far.
Yeah.
And that's a mixed bag, because that means I've added a lot of work for myself.
Exactly. Well, it's a continual balancing act between, what do I need to do now? What can I push off for a week or a month? And, what are my long-term plans to, how do I want this to function in a year from now or 2 years from now?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned before, the player feedback is, a very big thing. If I put up that whole post as character thing because I noticed that people's role play wasn't as in depth, and considering I already had character avatars built in, I figured why not actually post as your character? That would be a cool thing to do. And that's kind of led to a lot of the features, just because it's been like, all right, what can make role play better? And when you're doing play by post, role play is, I would say, 80%, 90% of what you're after.
Oh yeah, it has to be.
Absolutely. So anything that I can do to make role play feel more genuine is something I'm going to work on.
Right. Then you said your normal group doesn't get together all that often. Do you do any board gaming, card games, or anything like that?
We were for a good long while. We didn't have time for role-playing games as much, but we did do a lot of board gaming. Unfortunately, I think in the last few months, people have had to take on extra shifts at work and, whatever else it might be. So that's cut off a bit. But I am a huge board gamer. Love the heavy games. And I have, actually right next to me right now, like a stack of 4 or 5 games that have ended up kickstarting, but our group hasn't played much. So they're just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, all right, one of these days I'll get to open you up and we'll get to play. It'll happen eventually.
Are you a big Kickstarter supporter?
For a while, I was overly addicted to Kickstarter. I spent a lot of money on a lot of board games and role-playing games, and Monty Cook has gotten a good amount of my money at this point. I cannot help but kickstart Monty Cook's games. That's an addiction of its own, and a fair number of dice, most of which I haven't even seen yet, and that is a disappointment to me. But I love pretty dice, and I've kickstarted a decent number of those as well.
Did you, speaking of dice, did you kickstart the space roller dice, the glow-in-the-dark dice?
I did not, but I saw that, and I didn't because this was basically just after our group had stopped playing as much, and I was just completely torn. I'm like, I want these. They're really pretty. They would feel great in my hands, but I don't know if I can justify spending the money when they're just going to sit on my shelf.
Yeah, they were a little bit pricey. That was one of the ones I got into, and we're still waiting.
Yeah. I kickstarted a set of dice labeled, I think, "You Need These Dice," and it's been well over a year and a half now.
Ooh.
They look gorgeous in his renders. They look gorgeous in his pictures, but this was an unfortunate case of one of those where the guy who was running the Kickstarter, he got over his own head. He had a great idea. He just didn't know how to manage the end result, and that's led to a lot of problems. So he's still producing. He hasn't stopped. It's just well over due date. So I'm waiting on those. I think they'll be great when they come in, but that could be tomorrow. That could be a year from now, as far as I know.
Oh, that sucks. You still get regular updates though?
So for a long time, one of the big complaints was, for a long time he made an update every 2 to 3 months, and it would always be, "I'm gonna have your dice out soon," and people, just me included, started to get really upset at that. I understand if you're only going to post once or twice once every month or two, but if you're going to always say, "I'm going to have your dice out soon," and then you don't, all right, that's upsetting. If he had just said, "Unfortunately delayed, dice are going to be when they're going to be," I don't mind that too much, because I figure Kickstarter, you're already taking a risk with your money anyway. Not a big deal. But when you're continuously saying, "I'm going to have it to you soon," then you kind of expect to have it soon. and the lack thereof is frustrating. So
Right.
he kind of finally realized that, and now he posts an update twice a week. Once where he just kind of talks about what he's been doing for the dice that week, and another where he responds to any mails or posts you make to him. So
Right.
he's doing well more than I would have even expected any Kickstarter guy to do at this point. The don't have my dice yet, but all right, that's fine. I can live.
Yeah. It's surprising that the sheer number of Kickstarters that are out there, that there's relatively few that really just kind of completely fall apart, and a few of them quite spectacularly, but
Yeah, I saw a report that about 10 to 12% of Kickstarters fail completely, and even within that, I think only some 20% are just like complete bomb outs.
hmm,
Most of them will be people mismanaging money, people mismanaging time, people mismanaging the scope of their project, and those will just fall apart. Um, and then within that remaining 90%, I think they said, or within that remaining, I think they said like another 20% fall short of expectation. But 70% falling within expectation is pretty remarkable, in my opinion. I think that's
yeah,
fantastic.
it's pretty crazy. We've had quite a few Kickstarter project developers, game developers on and stuff, and it's interesting now with the resurgence in gaming in general, board gaming and RPG games, to have that sort of a resource available, not only as a consumer but as a developer, to eliminate that middleman to a certain extent. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah, and it helps developers that would have otherwise never gotten a shot because what publisher is going to take a risk on them? It helps
Mhm.
them, you know, kind of take a risk on themselves and figure out whether their game was ever worth developing in the first place.
Right.
And I'm a huge fan of Kickstarter, and it's unfortunate that a number of my projects haven't really gone through because it's kind of pushed me to only back projects where either they have a review from someone that I know and trust, or they've had successful projects in the past. And
Right.
that's kind of the antithesis of what Kickstarter is about in a way. And so it's kind of weird for me. I want to support small guys, but I need to see that they've put the legwork in so that I'm not just throwing money at nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you say, it's tough. You have limited budget, and you don't want to just throw it away, or have it invested and possibly get a return, or I
Right.
mean, there is some ambiguity as to whether or not some things are gonna fund or not.
Whether and even if they fund is the final quality, there was a board game that I backed that was an expensive board game. I backed it at $150 level, and it had
Hmm.
higher levels. Um, and about a year after it went out, they sent an email out to everyone saying, "You know what? We screwed up. We overspent. They gave us a whole slew of things, and they're like, we're going to put up a Kickstarter for a second version. If you back the first version, we will get you the first game, but we need to raise the funds in the second round in order to actually develop it." And they said, if you do decide, you can upgrade to one of the new tiers for cheaper. And it was a big debate for me because I'm like, all right, these guys have already failed once. I can just keep my current investment and get something out of it. But they kind of took it in a way that almost kind of forced me into upgrading, because what they said was they will get you the original game if that they promised. Whereas the second Kickstarter was for a clearly the same game but far superior in quality, in design, and all of that. And I'm like, at that point, I've already invested 150. I might as well invest that other 50 just to get theoretically what might be a full complete game, rather than what is clearly they've given up on the old project and they're only going to give me a crappy game for the previous funding level. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it was this real debate, and that to me was an example of that was, I think, like the second or third project I had backed too, so I wasn't as savvy in
Hmm.
Kickstarter at that point. And knowing what I know now, I would have never backed that project
Right.
in the first time, because there were clear red flags that this was a project that was not going to be successful.
Right.
So
You got to go with a winner like Dogmite. You know you're going to get a quality product, and you're going to get it, on time. And
I love Dogmite, and those guys are fantastic. And if you don't mind a small plug, in fact, it's so. I mean, I'm sure you're alluding to their current Kickstarter.
I am.
For their dragon sheets,
Mm-hmm.
which look amazing. I mean, those things, those are just fantastic. I mean, I'm trying to think of good descriptors, but nothing's really coming to mind. If you haven't seen it, you need to hop on a Kickstarter, look up Dogmite's dragon sheets, and Dogmite and I have been working together for a while, actually. And for example, right now I'm giving away a premium level Kickstarter. So if you win the contest, you get to pick out of their premium level reward tier, and you'll get one of those. So I also wouldn't have even considered running that contest if I wasn't completely confident in what you would get out of that. I have no qualms about attaching my name to Dogmites. They're fantastic people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been chatting with them back and forth. They sent a box set to us for a review,
Nice.
and we're hopefully going to have them on the podcast in the next week or so. We had them scheduled for Monday, and I forgot to put on the work calendar that my daughter had a thing at school on Monday night. So we're trying to reschedule.
Yeah, they're fantastic people. I got to meet them at Origins, and
nice.
This kind of tells you the kind of person they are. We had been talking online and on Twitter for a while about setting up some sort of partnership between Gamers Plane and Dogmite. And when I walked up to him and introduced myself, the very first thing was, hold on a second. He turns around, grabs one of the boxes, and he's like, this is a sign of the relationship I know we're going to have. And he gives me one of their dice boxes, and I'm like, who does that? Who really does that?
Yeah.
So that tells you, like, these are the kind of people that you want to know and hang out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely seemed like a good group of guys.
Yeah, love talking with them every time.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having them on. I think that'll be an enjoyable evening. Probably a crazy evening, maybe.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Let's see. Do you have any favorite RPGs or board games?
So I can't say I have a favorite RPG. I unfortunately don't have a wide berth of experience when it comes to RPGs. I played a ton of D&D 3, 3.5, and a touch of 4. And that is the majority of my experience until like the last year or two.
Okay.
So I don't have favorites. I do have games I don't enjoy as much, but don't have particular favorites. In terms of board games, so I guess not exactly a board game, but I'm a big miniatures fan, and I have a ton of X-Wing minis and Armada ships, and I don't think it'll be ever possible to get enough time to play those. I love tactical games, and so I love Armada and X-Wing. They are fantastic, fantastic games.
Cool. Have you ever played BattleTech, since you like the miniature stuff?
I got to try at Origins last year, and it was interesting. I'm struggling to think of the right words there too, because it was a scenario where they gave us pre-made mechs and everything. They taught us the game, and then we got to play around, and it was a lot of fun. But we were talking a little bit earlier about things that are very crunchy. I like crunchy, but that might have been a little too crunchy for me. And I mean, I've built 40K armies, and I think BattleTech might have still been a little crunchy for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I played when I just gotten out of high school and started college. I was playing with a buddy of mine, and we had squads taped up on the walls. We had 12 maps on the floor, and he made a little dice roller program for a little Apple II or whatever the hell it was, and I got my brother into playing. I don't even know how the hell we started. But we made up all of our own 3D terrain. I got a hot wire foam factory,
Nice.
like their scroll table saw. So we have a whole huge table set up now where we kind of like it was before. We have all of our squads, and we play with about 25 mechs per side, and
Yeah,
it's a lot of dice rolling.
as soon as I saw the BattleTech Kickstarter actually for the video game, I was like, this is perfect for me because I really loved what the game was doing. I just couldn't get into the whole, all right, if you do this much damage to this particular part of the mech, then you roll the die to see does damage transfer out of there, does heat. It was a lot for me. And I'm like, if I could play this game but not have to worry as much about the numbers, this might be my favorite game ever. And so as soon as that Kickstarter went up, I'm like, backing immediately, not worrying about anything. I'm also a huge fan of Harebrained Schemes. They've done fantastic jobs in general, so I didn't see that going wrong in any way.
Yeah, I didn't get in on that one. The last video game for BattleTech or Mech Warrior that I got was Super Nintendo.
Ooh.
And you get up so far, and then it's just like super frustrating because you're one mech against like 12.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, why are all these sirens going off?
Yeah, that's if I understand correctly, they're actually going to have squad battles in this version, which I know is something that a lot of people were like, all right, yeah, one mech. Why would I take one mech to fight 12 mechs? This doesn't make any sense. There's no scenario I would do this under. I would just run away. So if they actually do that, the squad battle stuff, that'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that would be fun. As far as all the numbers and stuff, like my brother and I don't play to the rules. I mean, we incorporate most of the rules, but so technically every time you take an internal hit, you're supposed to roll to see whether or not it goes critical and your ammo will explode. And we don't do any of that because it takes some of the fun out of it. I mean, it's, if it's like D&D. If I got one hit point, I'm still fully functioning. There's absolutely no penalties. So we run our mechs the same way. We're like, screw it. There's 1 point of armor left. The gun still works.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that's the kind of experience I would enjoy in it. Because even when I played 40K with friends, it would be here like 80, 90% of the rules, enough for us to, play without it being broken. But, that was supposed to kill off your entire squad? No, you know what? That just took off the 4 or 5 orcs, and we're just going to go from there. We just figured we're doing this to have fun. Why in the world are we going to make it more frustrating and annoying for ourselves? We're just going to do whatever we want and have a good time with it.
Well, the rule of cool should always kind of win out in those situations.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, heck, we played 40K with literally whatever we could find around the house. My friends had books, and we would make armies that were comprised of computer mice and poker chips and slips of paper. A beer can was a dreadnought for a while. So it was just, oh look, that might be a piece. Yes, that is now my Space Marine scout.
Hey man, those armies are expensive. So if you can cut that down and substitute, that's the way to do it.
I think that's why I love X-Wing minis so much. You can spend like $30, $40 and have a squad to play and go complete with. Sure, you need to spend the full amount to get the full experience, but I think I've spent a total of maybe $400, and I have so many options that I'm never going to get bored of it. Versus something like 40K, for $400, maybe I'd have 1.5 functional armies, maybe at the very most. So yeah, I think that people are realizing that the the miniatures hobby is a little more expensive than most people are willing to part with these days. So a lot of these companies are now making scaled back versions that are just as fun, but you don't have to go and spend your entire month's salary just to just to get into your next game.
Yeah, and not only the cost of that, but then the time to paint, the investment and just time before you can even get them on the table.
Yeah, if I understand correctly now, 40K is starting to release pre-painted plastic minis so that people can. I don't know whether this was something they're planning on doing or whether it's like actually being released, but I read that they were looking into pre-painted plastics so that people wouldn't be forced to spend all their, like, if you wanted to paint it, all right, fine, you can go and get unpainted armies and do as you want.
Right.
But if you just wanted to jump in, sure, just buy a squad of Marines and bam, you're good to go.
Right. Well, because most people, if they're going to play, they're going to up to this point want to paint. Like if you walked into the game store and you had an army that was unpainted, people would be like, "The hell are you doing? Like, don't put that on the table."
That's the Space Marine captain I'm following. He preferred to be completely unpainted at all times. If I ever had that situation, that's exactly what I would walk in with. I'm like, I follow the missing legion of no paint.
Yeah.
This is what they look like all the time.
They spray space acetone out of their flamethrower. Oh man, that was something I never got into. Just I like a crunchy game, like I like Rogue Trader, and I always enjoyed 4th edition D&D, but the investment in time and paint and walking in with a ruler to play, like I'm out. I can't do it.
I think that's why we enjoyed just picking up random stuff around the house and turning it into stuff, because building armies was always fun for me. I guess, again, going back to being an engineer, I'm like, I enjoy that kind of thing. But I painted one miniature in my life. It was a ton of fun. It ate like 6 or 8 hours of my day, and how someone goes through painting an entire 40K army baffles me. Yes, okay, it was my first, so it was slow and it wasn't that good. I'm sure with time and experience, I could knock that down to a couple of hours. But to paint a full squad of like 5-6 Space Marine down to their minute detail, no, I'm good. You guys enjoy your you guys enjoy that. I'm going to go instead build 5 40K armies in the time you do that.
I guess it's sort of like a Zen thing, though, right? I mean, you get into the paint and you're into the hobby and you're doing all the things. I guess there's some amount of relaxation that's in it. For me, it would be frustrating, but I guess if you're into it, I guess it could be relaxing.
I loved painting that one mini. It was a brilliant experience. It was really cool to decide, like, what exactly is this guy going to look like? He's somewhere around here. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Oh, I guess you can't really see it but here, let's see. Can I bring this guy closer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, I did a pretty decent job, but it was just really cool. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have his scale be gray, and I'm gonna have his cloak be red, and versus a miniature you just pick up anywhere else, and it's like, oh, those colors aren't the colors I was hoping for my character.
Yeah.
Oh well, I guess it's whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah. When we first started playing D&D, we used Legos. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to last for very long, so let's not invest a lot of money, and we'll use Legos and just kind of roll with it. And then the more we played, the more minis we bought, to the point where a couple of years ago I was buying collections at $500 a pop that now are separated and sitting in the closet because as busy as we were at the podcast, I don't run games anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about all of the Monty Cook Kickstarters. I have the Monty Cook Numenera box set, the special edition box set that they released, and it's just sitting here. I've read through the rules, and my friends know that I've read through the rules, and I keep hoping they're going to be like, yeah, that game that you tried to convince us about, we'll give it a shot. Otherwise, this is just a really pretty box with a lot of really pretty books inside it.
There's a lot of stuff in there too.
Yeah, I haven't even opened, I would say, half of it. The deck of cards that are in there, the decks I haven't touched. The map I've glimpsed over, but haven't really done anything with. And I've read the core book, but I haven't read any of the other books that are included in there as well. So it's one day that will be a very well used project. Until then, it is a very pretty box. It is a very pretty box.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy that we involve ourselves with these gaming projects and developing websites and podcasts, and it ultimately winds up taking away from actually sitting at the table and playing games. It's kind of stupid.
Well, I think that's the mixed bag that it is. That's kind of nice for me because since I'm not really playing, Gamers Playing is my way to connect to the community. Since I don't have a local group, there are some game stores. I actually did discover a game store that's like 15 minutes from me, but I haven't gotten to go visit it yet. I just found out about it 2 or 3 weeks ago. But in general, there's not many game stores in my area where people will meet and play. And so I kind of always feel a little distant from the community. And doing Gamers Playing, both from the site and from social media and from being on podcasts and talking to people, has kind of really gotten me involved in this community. And that on its own has made the entire effort worth it. Even if Gamers Playing had collapsed and gone under, the chance that I got to meet people, to go to these conventions, to do these things, that has been a great experience for me. And it's just really cool to see the wide berth of people that are out there in this community.
Mm-hmm. I would echo that sentiment for sure. It's as much time as it takes up to do all the social media things and get on the Twitter and do all that stuff. It's very rewarding to be able to connect to people and, talk about games or even not games. I talked to one guy. He changed the name on his Twitter handle. I can't remember what his name is at the moment, but he was lamenting the fact of, I wanted to kind of do this, and I don't know, with the kids, and we're super busy, and I just sent him a message like, hey, just do it. Like, even if it's a half an hour, just set some time, just do it. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, if you want it, then you've got to get in there and put some time in for it. And then, even if it's a half an hour, you'll appreciate that half an hour every day or once a week that much more for just, getting in there and, doing whatever it is.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've noticed as your cast has gone on that you spend half an hour the first time and you get so much done. The next half hour you spend, you get a little bit more done than that. And the next half hour is a little bit more than that. And eventually you're realizing that half hour is actually a lot. Like, you get a good amount of stuff done in half an hour. And then you're like, oh, yeah, why not just spend an hour this week? Yeah. And then 2 hours this week. And then I think I forgot to eat this week. And what is sleep? I don't remember sleep. Why do people keep talking to me about sleep?
We started real slow. And then when we came back from Necronomicon in August, everything just really kind of blew up. And my ex-wife moved out at that point, and my daughter's here with me, and it was like, staying up till 12:30 every night and getting up at 4:30 to go to work because there was interviews and articles and scheduling and homework, and so after a month or two, I'm like, this is too much. We've got to pick and choose. We've got to set some kind of boundaries because this is crazy.
Yeah, I haven't reached, or I haven't learned that lesson with Gamers Playing yet. If I have time and I have my laptop, I'm probably popping it open and figuring out, all right, well, what feature do I want to add next? Mm-hmm. That has led to me going to sleep at like 2 a.m. on a work night because, if I finish off this feature now, then I don't have to work on it later. But there's always another feature later, so it doesn't really wind up too much.
No, so. I'm lucky in that regard because Vince does the website stuff, and then pretty much all the social media aspect is all me.
Okay.
And there's always something there to do, right? So like, there's always another tweet, and there's always another message, and it's like playing Civ 2. If you ever played Civilization 2,
Oh yes.
it's
Oh
never not your
yes.
turn, and it just goes on forever.
Yeah. Civ is a game that I have a lot of hours. So Steam has told me I have a lot of hours in Civ 5,
Hmm.
and I don't remember them mostly because they become a blurry haze of like 3 days straight.
Yeah,
Civilization is a dangerous game,
I,
but
I gave
yeah,
up after 3.
okay, that's fair. Yeah, I didn't really pick up into it until 4,
Oh,
and
okay.
then a group of my friends went, "Hey, do you have Civ 5? We're gonna be playing Civ 5 together." I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll get Civ 5. Why not?" And that was among the worst mistakes I've ever made in video game purchases. Not
Yeah,
because I don't enjoy it, but because what happened to my life.
yeah, it's a huge time sink. All the shooters too. Fallout and all that kind of stuff. You just, like I said, after Super Nintendo, I pretty much gave up not only on MechWarrior and BattleTech, but pretty much everything because there's just so many buttons now. It's like I can't. I'm out.
Well, to be fair, games are going back in a simpler direction, I think, because of that. And I've seen a lot of games as of late where it's like, all right, you need WASD to move around, and you need your mouse to do stuff, and there you go. That's the entire game. We're not moving using any more buttons than that, and
Mhm.
I can appreciate that. There's a well-made simple game. Uh, I don't know if you know, World of Goo was a puzzle game that came out a couple of years ago, and all it was you taking these little goo balls and making scaffolding out of it in order to get from one side to the other, or to get to cross problems.
Right.
Super simple game. One of my favorite games of all time because it was just done perfectly. It was nice and easy. It was nice and simple, but it wasn't easy. It was still challenging and complicated, and you had to think about it. And so I love games like that, uh, where the thought comes into the problem solving, not into figuring out what the game is.
Right.
But
Kind of like a Minesweeper. I mean, you just get in there and kind
sure,
of like it's got a little bit of a little bit. I mean, it's got more of a puzzle aspect to it, but it's just a simple click, click, click. You can kind
yeah,
of
absolutely.
tune off a little bit and just kind of mess around. That's
Yeah, and like you said before, like since you've split up the workload, basically, one person handling half of it each. It's kind of I kind of look at it the same way in that, like, I like the simple games because for gamers playing, I am the developer, I am the designer, I am the webmaster, I am the server admin, I am the PR, I am the social outreach, I'm development, I'm
yeah,
community manager. I my brain just falls apart after a little while when I think about everything I got to do. There's not enough time in the world for me to even do 3 of those things, let alone all of those things at once.
yeah. It's crazy. Um, just having to wear all the hats, even with the two of us splitting the work, it's
Sure,
still just
it's
you have
insane.
full-time jobs, and I'm doing the single dad thing, and
Yeah,
he's helping with his parents and stuff like that, and it's just like I say, there's not enough hours in the day.
yeah. If I ever make an invention, it might just be like a time dilation device. Like, give me a few extra hours in a day to work on Gamers Plane or sleep. Give
Yeah,
me a few extra hours in the day to sleep,
yeah.
and that might be enough to make me happy.
So I'll go through now. I'll just hit a point during the week, like, what, I'm out. I'm off social media. I won't watch TV. I need to completely decompress. Um,
Yeah, that those used to be board game nights for me. Board game nights were, I don't pick up my phone, I don't touch anything. I'm playing a completely analog game, so there's no electronics involved. Because,
mhm.
like I said, unfortunately, for better or for worse, if I have access to my laptop, I'm going to try to get something done for Gamers Plane, whether that's send out a tweet, respond to
Mhm.
an email, you know, start building a new feature, whatever it might be. And of course, like I said, I'm a web developer by profession. I constantly have to keep my web development skills, sharp too. So that means learn a new technology, read a new book, whatever else it might be. So between all of those, that's what I miss most about my board game nights. Not necessarily the board games, but that it was completely free of everything else involved.
Right. Well, it's a great opportunity to just decompress and socialize, just kind of hang out. And
yeah. Hey, I love the internet. Can't be a web developer and hate the internet. But seriously, meeting someone face-to-face is way better than any online experience you're going to get. I will gladly trade, I would gladly trade every online chat I have with a person to meet up with them for an hour a week. Without a doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely a different, completely different experience. And it's nice that, we have the ability to do what we're doing in the age that we live in.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But it doesn't compare to, sitting together and having a beer and, playing a game or whatever. But, it is nice for people who are either isolated or, maybe a little bit more shy or, whatever it is to be able to.
Are a big thing for people.
But to still have that opportunity to connect on some level and do the things that you want to do is really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a huge digital advocate. I am all for enhancing our lives with technology, but I am also a huge. When the XCOM board game got announced, and they're like, "Well, you're going to need an app to play this game," my first thought was, I don't know if I'm nearly as interested in this game as I was 5 minutes ago. Because, all right, that's cool, and I can appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't want to play a game with an app.
Right.
I think my tune might have changed as of late, because there is a, can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there is a fighter, or I don't want to call it a miniatures game, but it's I guess it is a miniatures game. It's having little pieces, and you fight on a board, and you adjust the board by using a digital reader pen. You point it at the monster you want to attack, you point at the monster you want to fight, and it does all of the math and everything for you. And that's really cool. And after having done that, I kind of changed my mind about the whole idea of mixing apps and board games. But I'm still a very big advocate of, if you're going to do it, you still need to have like 90% of the control. You need to have 90% of the control in the player's hands, and the app is just there to heighten the experience.
Right. Well, it almost sounds like going back to playing like Icewind Dale or Baldur's Gate or something like that. You literally just click, and then the program does all the math, and
Yeah, this was, I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was just really neat. It was a very well constructed, really neat miniatures. It took away a lot of the stuff that you have to worry about in things like 40K and BattleTech, in that when you're setting up your army, you just set it up in the program. So, use the same tokens regardless, and the program remembers what abilities and different things you have. So
right.
It helped take away some of the minutia, I guess.
Right. And some people really enjoy all that.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, like I said, I love building 40K armies. There's definitely some sort of catharsis for that. But there's also a point when you just want to be like, okay, I'm going to click here, click there, something happens. I'm just going to worry about the strategy. The game can worry about the numbers.
I think that's, things like Candy Crush and Angry Birds and stuff like that. I think that's why it's so popular, because it does give you that sort of experience. You just, I'm just swiping or whatever, and the game takes care of the rest.
Yeah, I know what I want to do broadly, and the game's going to handle the very small details for me. Yeah, that's I don't know if I've ever really gotten into any phone games that I've really stuck with. My phone has books and puzzle games on it, and that's about it. I have a I love Ken. Uh, if you know like Sudoku,
Mhm.
it's similar to Sudoku, but it's math based instead of being just numbers in columns and rows. You actually have to solve math problems.
Hmm.
So that is what I typically do on my way into work. If I can't be on my laptop, I am playing math puzzles. Uh, make of that what you will.
Yeah. The only game I have on my phone is Bejeweled Blitz.
I can go for that. Bejeweled is always a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a time sink if you got 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, like you say, you don't want to pull out the laptop, or you're, if I'm picking my kid up after school or something like that, and you're sitting in the car for a couple of minutes, it's a good way to
Yeah,
kill
sure.
kill some time. I never leave the house without a book, so if I'm not doing that, I'm reading a book.
Yeah, I love the feel of a paper book, but I am really glad that digital books are out there because this way my phone is on me all the time, and I always have some new book to read or my favorites. I've
Mhm.
got I've purchased all of Harry Potter in digital format because that is a book I can go back to, probably partially out of nostalgia, having grown up with those, but at the same time also I really do like the Harry Potter books. I'm not going to deny it. I think they're well written, even from an adult point of view.
Mhm. I never got into them.
That's fair. I think part of if I hadn't gotten into it, the first one must have come out when I was in high school. I would think. I
It
imagine.
had to be around 92, 93,
Yeah,
maybe.
something like mid '90s, I think. So I
Yeah.
think that was so that would have been like early high school for me. Uh, and I think if I had been in college or out of college at that point, I don't think I would have even bothered. It wouldn't have. I don't think it would have appealed to me in any way.
Yeah.
But
But there was such a hype about it too that
yeah,
if you're of that temperament, you're just like, everybody likes it. I don't want that.
yeah, exactly. It was a very touch and go thing. I think that I enjoy that style of writing as well. So I think that did it for me. Like right now, Brandon Sanderson is my go-to author, and he has he just has a style of writing that I cannot turn away. I cannot turn down a Brandon Sanderson book for the life of me. I don't know why. I can just tell you, like right now, you give me anything he writes, and I will gobble that thing up.
Hmm. I was like that with old Stephen King.
Mm.
His new stuff I don't particularly care for.
I
Um,
am also a fan of his older works.
yeah.
He had, yeah, I don't know what it is. Something changed, I would say, like 10, 15 years ago in how he
Maybe more.
writes. And I think that the older stuff from there was actually more my style.
Hmm. My all time favorite author is Charles DeLint. He does urban fantasy.
Okay.
It's
I'm not familiar with him. I'll have to
he
look him
so
up.
yeah, it would be like today, whatever's going on right now, and then like right alongside of it is all the weird, either Fey stuff or a lot of Native
Sure.
American mythology and stuff he's been doing now, and he's a fantastic writer. I
So kind of Harry Dresden-esque in that modern world with a side world attached to it.
kind of sorta, I guess. He's some of his older stuff is more like regular high fantasy, but for the most part, 95% of it is this urban fantasy blend of normal everyday stuff, and yeah, that the just out of the corner of your eye all the things that are happening, and people get sucked into whatever's going on, and get exposed to
Okay.
this other world. Yeah.
There was a kid series I remember like that, The Other Side.
Hmm.
Uh, that was kind of that same idea where you've got You got a whole mysterious world just out of the corner of your eye, and some unfortunate people would sometimes get sucked into that world and have to deal with the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there is something about that kind of mixture between a world you can understand and a world you can't, that even in terms, back onto the RPG, Shadowrun is one of my favorite, even if not favorite systems, one of my favorite settings, because it's something I can relate to in that, okay, here are modern guns or obviously future guns, but they're within reasonable understanding. And then all of a sudden, there's a mage right next to the guy firing a shotgun shell.
Yeah.
What? Where did this come from? It's just fantastic. I love that. I love that blend that Shadowrun has managed there.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're working on I guess they're in 5th edition now.
This has been out for a while, so I guess next up will be 6th.
Yeah, yeah. I had played in a play-by-post when it was still 4th, I think.
Okay.
That went on for a little bit, but not super long.
Yeah, it's I guess tying back a bit, play-by-post is interesting because you need to find the right group. If you don't, the game will fall apart super quick, and even if you do, I mean, the game might fall apart pretty quickly. But I've seen, on Gamers Playing right now, I know there are games that have thousands on thousands of posts. People are, posting once a day. They're super active. A lot is happening. And there are other games that have like 150 posts and they die. And 150 posts in the relative scope is you've just left, the first inn on your grand adventure. Like 150 posts is nothing. That's basically I've introduced my character and I've walked out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always curious to see how people create that dynamic of here's a complete random stranger, but somehow I'm going to make a game work with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when Nerdbound was still around, we had a game that we started when I first joined and lasted for about 3.5 years till the podcast died.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
And we were super. I mean, people were posting like multiple times over the course of the day, and it was a super active game.
Yeah, that's when games get like that. You get so engrossed and enthralled in what you're doing that you need to log back on and check. And nowadays, obviously, you've got your phone and you can just literally check your forums whenever, wherever.
Yeah.
I need to. The only thing I ever want to raise money for on Gamers Playing, the cost of the server costs and everything, I'll eat those. Those are nominal in relative scopes for me. The only thing that I actually want to raise funds for is to get a nice mobile layout so people can. The site works on phones and tablets and whatever, but it's not built for it, so it's not as good as it can be.
Sure.
I would just love to raise funds someday to have a professional designer help me design a mobile-friendly version or an app version so that people can play on their phones without being bogged down.
Mm-hmm.
Only fiscal goal I ever have for Gamers Playing is that.
Right. Well, there's always Patreon.
So I actually did the math. For me, Patreon doesn't work out as well as just doing the direct PayPal donations. So I have PayPal donation links, and I've got your typical Amazon links, DriveThruRPG links, and all that. So my costs are low, and sure, I would love to pay off things like cons and stuff with the site, but if people are having fun, I find it's weird for me. I'm a web developer, so I understand the value of ads, and I understand the value of making back what you're spending on a site. But also as a web developer, ads are the most annoying thing in the world to me. And I cannot help but go, I'm going to keep Gamers Playing ad-free for as long as I understandably can without going insane. Because I despise ads. I know I need them eventually, but right now, hate them with a passion.
Yeah. So we find our. Oh, am I muted or not muted?
You're good.
Okay. um, we find ourselves in the same situation where like you don't want to inundate people with ads, even if it's something that they may actually want to go and try. Like we have the Amazon link and stuff. But at some point you want to offset some of the money that you're spending, because it's not, like say in the grand scheme of things, it's not a ton of money, but a couple of $100 every year. And if you want to do giveaways like with Dogmite or t-shirts and things, you're putting all that money out up front. So it's a fine line.
I've gotten fortunate that there are a couple of people who love Gamers Plane. They love being on there, and so they've opted to set up recurring donations. And so once or twice once a month or two, I'll get a slight infusion of money. And right now I'm paying off server costs, which is a huge milestone. Paying off server costs, that's ridiculous as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So next step is I need to upgrade the servers. So pretty soon I'm going to go from paying off server costs to paying off most of my server costs. But I guess that's good. Growth on the site means new servers necessary. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a positive sign. So
awesome. That's cool. Well, we probably kicked this pig. I don't have anything else. If you have anything you want to get out there, of course, we'll probably throw the website out there. It's gamersplane.com.
Yep. You can always find me on Twitter too, @gamersplane. I am ridiculously active on Twitter, way more than I should be. Way more than is probably mentally healthy. But it's if you tweet me, I will 100% tweet you back, because I love meeting people. I love talking to people, and it's a fantastic way to connect with the community. So yeah, I don't think I mean we both kind of gave a plug for Dogmite, which would be the only other thing that I'd kind of throw up right now. So if you're interested in checking out Dogmite Dragon Sheath and maybe win one, there's a giveaway going on at Gamers Plane. You don't have to be a member or anything. You can just go straight to the site and check it out. Otherwise, yeah, it was thanks for having had me.
Oh, you're not off the hook yet. We may be done with the overall questions, but we have the final 5 that we need to throw at you still.
All right. Yes, that's right.
All right, so the 5 geeky, nerdy related questions here. And we'll just jump right in. So the first one is Star Trek or Star Wars?
So this is tough just because of all the stuff that has recently changed with Star Wars. I think I'm still going to lean Star Wars.
Okay. Did you not like the new movie?
I loved the new movie, but I didn't like the complete removal of the expanded universe. Removing that from canon, it was kind of weird. And most of my complaints about the new movie are cinematic, not story. I have issues with the way they structured the movie, not necessarily what the movie was about. So that's a slightly different complaint, in a way.
Yeah. Most people are the other way around.
Yeah, I've gotten to this point where I don't watch movies with any expectations, so I'm never disappointed in movies anymore. Every movie I see is great, even if it's terrible.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to go about it. I've watched movies like there's 2 hours I'm never getting back in my life.
Oh, I've had those, but I think far less than I've used to have. When I went in to see Star Wars, my expectations were lightsaber, blaster bolt, Millennium Falcon. I got those 3. I was happy.
Yeah. It was. I was. With all the hype, it's hard not to kind of get caught up. I stayed away from all the spoilers, and I didn't watch the trailers. And
someone else, I did not watch a single trailer for that movie. Yeah, the only thing I knew, I had seen a couple of screenshots on Imager, and that was about it. I knew there was a guy with a Christmas tree lightsaber, and that was it.
I think when the very first one came out, I think I watched it. I was like, all right, well that looks cool, and I'm not going to watch anymore because I don't want to know the story before I go in. Then what's the point of me going?
Yeah. Although people did tell me that they did a good job with those trailers, like it didn't give away anything significant.
Yeah.
So it's mixed, but I'm with you on that. I don't watch trailers anymore. I try to avoid expectations, and it makes my enjoyment of movies way better now.
Well, that's cool. That's definitely a way to do it. All right, tabletop or video games?
I'm gonna say tabletop. I love video games, but being around people and thinking beats not thinking any day of the week.
Mm-hmm. All right. DC or Marvel?
I am all right. I am going to say Marvel here, but it only slightly edges that way, and I think only because things are more explodey in the Marvel universe. DC to me has better written characters. Marvel has more explosions.
Right.
And when I'm reading a comic book, there's something inherently neat about explosions.
So they're the Michael Bay of comics?
Yeah. Iron Man is one of my favorite characters of all time because he's a jerk and he has a ton of robot machines that do random things. On the other hand, my favorite superhero of all time is probably Green Lantern, who is obviously on the DC side of the world. So I didn't grow up on comics. I didn't really get into them until a couple of years ago. So I never had I'm a DC guy or I'm a Marvel guy. It was, oh look, someone was giving away a comic book. I get to read a comic. I'm super happy as a child. So it didn't matter to me whether it was DC or Marvel or any other publisher. It was just fun.
Yeah, I had a mixed bag growing up too. I wasn't like a huge comics kid. So, if I picked up one here, I picked up one there. It was like, oh, what's on the cover? That looks cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Batman's, for me is kind of the go-to as far as that goes. But I don't know. I've read some Spider-Man, but other than that, I don't think I've read very much Marvel.
Yeah, I've read a bunch of Green Lantern, and I'm reading a bunch of Deadpool now. But that's about it. I'll basically pick up things as people recommend them to me. I'll read them and then I'll move on.
Right. And the big two, I mean, there's so many smaller outlets now for comics. You've got like The Walking Dead and things like that. And there's some weird fairy tale thing now. I don't know what the hell it's called. I see it sometimes when I'm up at the store. But yeah, I mean, so many alternate publishers now.
It's fantastic. People, like we were saying about Kickstarter in the same light, people getting a chance to put something down on paper, and we're finding out it's as good, if not better, than the big stuff we've been reading for years.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Sci-fi or fantasy?
I'm a sci-fi guy. I think it goes back to me being an engineer. It's hard for me to not go like, well, what if we did build that machine we shouldn't have built?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think sci-fi is my big fallback. I think fantasy is my escape.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah, my brain is wired for sci-fi. So
yeah. And then if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Damn, this is always the hardest. So if I could have one superpower, I think it'd have to be teleportation.
Mm-hmm.
Think teleportation in a practical sense. Like if we're talking about a world where, I randomly get some random superpower, taking out the hour and a half of my daily commute, being able to get around to friends' places faster, or just running late to appointments, so I'm gonna get over there. Something like Nightcrawler's teleportation would be my way to go.
Mm-hmm. Be super efficient, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's really sad that was my thought. Is what? I would like to shave time off of effort so that I'd have time to do other things. So yes, I could be really cool and fly or shoot lightning bolts. No. Teleportation. It's going to save me time. It'll be very practical.
Hey, time's the only thing that we get. I mean, it's what you do with it that matters, but time is the only thing that you can claim.
I guess should I have said time control as a superpower? Would that have been?
That might have been better for that.
Yeah, wait. I have all the time I need now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, between the choice of flight and teleportation, I probably take teleportation.
Yeah, it's if you're going to consider modes of transport, flight is really cool, but as far as I'm concerned, flight involves doing something, and I don't know if I want to do that. Teleportation is instantaneous. I think that's more convenient for me.
Yeah, for sure. Like you say, it cut all kinds of time out of your day.
And I guess if I take teleportation and I take a hang glider, I can fly for a while too. So I get the most of both worlds.
No cheating. You can't wish for more wishes.
No, this isn't cheating. I'm gonna go to a hang glider store. Are there hang glider stores? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know where you buy a hang glider. But I'm going to go find to that place, and I'm going to purchase a hang glider, and then I'll teleport somewhere, and then I'll be flying. So
Will you be flying when you get to where you're going?
I don't know. At first I need to learn how to hang glide without falling. So there's a whole bunch of other steps involved in this.
So we're just talking total end game moment then. Oh man, yeah, we've thought about changing these questions up, but we get so many awkward pauses when we ask them. It's like, well, I don't know why we should change them then.
They're great. They're fantastic. I've loved the responses are always, because they're exactly what you want out of if someone is into the geek nerd world. This is exactly the type of question you get, and it's exactly the type of question that's going to start a war one day.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the Trekkies versus the Wars. Someone is going to draw the line just a step too far, and it's going to be Yoda versus Picard, and someone will not be happy with the result.
It'd be like fanboys when they meet the Star Trek guys in the convention.
It wasn't there. I think there was a Doctor Who episode that was pretty much along these lines of two armies that met each other off of they both were basically reading the same thing, and they read it slightly different ways, and it's over thousands of years it became a war that no one could remember why this was going on.
That's usually how it works, right?
It was. There you go. You can throw in a Doctor Who question if you want to kick it up a notch.
I don't know anything about Doctor Who.
Which Doctor do you prefer? Endless arguments right there.
Yeah. Well, what's there been, like 7?
No, we're there straight through to 13.
Oh, that's right, 13. Yeah. I don't watch it. I really don't know anything about it.
That's fair. If you're not into it, that's fair enough. I picked it up when it restarted in 2005. I picked it up a year or two later, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. And like all good British shows, it only has like 10 episodes a season, and then I'm very bored for the majority of the year.
Yeah. Stupid Brits and their TV.
But notice, they don't run out of ideas. We stuff 24 episodes into a season, and half of them are the same as the other half.
Yeah, that's true.
How many cop procedural shows do we have in America at this point?
Too many. SVU's probably got 3 all by itself.
It's every other show that you see is a cop procedural. How many ways is there to kill someone? I think we've run out of ideas.
Well, CSI just bit the bullet, no pun intended. I thought that was still pretty good. I was surprised at how well Ted Danson was.
They definitely did a great job of, and that's the thing is that there are always ideas. A good set of writers can usually come up with something new, but
Yeah.
it's as soon as the writers start to fall apart when you're like, wait, I've seen this show. It was on that other show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they do the crossover.
Oh,
Different shows altogether.
crossovers are a mixed bag. They're some of my favorite shows have been ruined by adding crossovers. And I'm like, no, why did you do this? You didn't need this. You were good on your own. This was pointless.
Mm-hmm. You got to share that audience.
Got to try to grow that audience.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're probably wrapped up here. I thank you for coming on. We definitely had a good time.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast. I definitely loved it.
Well, if we can't play games, it's almost as much fun to sit and talk about games.
Absolutely. And like we said, if you're the guy that's been handling the Twitter, you and I have chatted on Twitter more than a few times, and so it's great. I always love meeting people, or at least seeing face-to-face names that you've associated online, because up till now you've just been that handle I've tweeted back and forth with a little bit. Now it's like, oh right, you're a human being too. That's right, I remember this now.
That is the nice thing, because when you have the opportunity to interact with people, even if it's just on the Twitter, it to me makes it more personal than just a Twitter handle. If you reach it, hey, you'll sometimes catch people, oh, happy birthday, or somebody will post that their wife had a baby or whatever. And you're like, hey, that's awesome. Congratulations. Hope everybody's good.
Yeah.
And that kind of, it's fulfilling, like we're, doing our thing, but it's nice to be able to really contact people and be in touch with people and hey, I'm a person, you're a person. It's great.
One of the coolest things that I saw at a convention, a small convention in Ohio, was on the name tags, they also included Twitter handles. So
nice.
It had your name, it had your Twitter handle, and a website if you had one associated. And I thought that was brilliant. You could walk around and go, yeah, I've chatted with you on Twitter. I know who you are. And oh, look, now you actually have a human name and a human face. You're an actual person. It was great. I thought it was a catacon. I don't know if you know the RPG Academy. They're another big podcast.
Yeah.
And so at their convention, they did name, Twitter handle, website. Brilliant. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing
to do that.
Yeah, well, yeah, because when you don't, the first time I went to PAX, I went because the guys from Nerdbound were going, and I contacted Neil. He was the guy running it, and he's actually, part of Legends here. And I'm standing there waiting for him to come up. I just got off the phone with him. Him coming up, I'm meeting you. Okay, I'm standing over here, and he comes walking up to me. My first thought is, who the hell is this guy, and why is he walking over here?
Oh, that's right.
Because we never met
with another human.
Yeah, it was a real weird moment.
yeah. No, I completely get what you mean there. But yeah, it was, like I said, it was definitely a pleasure to finally put a name, a face to that name. And well, I guess I've seen the videos in the past, so I can't completely say, but this is our first personal interaction, so we're gonna go with it.
I know what you mean. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for checking it out. We had a couple of people pop in here while we were live. You could check us out at legendsoftabletop.com. Check out our YouTube at YouTube/Legends of Tabletop. We're all over the social medias. You've heard me say it before, so be kind and go check us out and follow and subscribe and do all those things, and we'll catch you next time.